face reveal, I guess.
So, hey guys, 4eyes here, and no, I haven't made a video in a while. I know this is a really janky setup right here with my headset under this hat. The hat's for because of the topic of the video today, and I'm sorry, but this headset's really the only mic I have unless you want to listen to the mic off this webcam right here. And you don't want to do that. So, but anyway, even though I haven't made a video in a while, I want to talk a bit about this craze that's going on right now with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and the worrying trend that I see happening if this games are successful. And during the video, there's not going to be much on screen, other than some stuff I'm going to put up on there. I'm going to be putting on interviews, trailers, everything that's relevant to what I'm saying at the time. But other than that, there's not really be much than my face. And I'll have everything down in the description so you can check it out for yourself afterwards. And if you want to just let this video run in the background, do other stuff, that's fine as well. Like I said, not a lot going on the screen. And if you want the short version of what I'm about to say in regards to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, nostalgia pandering casualization out of 10. Do not buy. Now onto the big picture. So a couple months ago, when the copyrights and logos for Let's Go were leaked, me and a few friends were immediately suspicious. There were a bunch of rumors floating around about battling being removed, catching working like did in the smartphone app, just being Kanto remake, etc. And we kept cautiously optimistic. You know, there's no way they'd do anything so drastic. It's Game Freak, but there's no way they would just, remove all the core elements of Pokemon, right? Well, then we saw the trailer. And then E3 happened.
But with these games being on Nintendo Switch and of course in the living room, we figured people would be playing along with their friends and family. And we wanted to do a new take on this kind of Pokemon catching experience with these intuitive controls where you're just kind of flicking the Nintendo Switch controller and throwing out Pokeballs.
And that ruined all of our hopes. So let's go over the disaster that was the information revealed in the trailer in E3 and explain why this is a problem. First off, the region. We are going to Kanto again. This is what? Second, third, fourth, fifth time we are going to Kanto. Sixth if you count Kalos as basically just Kanto. I mean, it's a remake of Pokemon Yellow. We don't need to go to Kanto again. With how much pandering Gen 1 got in X and Y along with Sun and Moon, there should be enough Gen 1ers out there with the nostalgia sated, but this is the least worst part of the games. So the way catching Pokemon works is just like in Pokemon Go. You encounter a Pokemon, whoop, you throw a ball at it, you get lucky. Now, this is fine for a freemium smartphone app, but for a $60 game on the Nintendo Switch from a very well-known developer is suicide. You don't battle wild Pokemon at all. You just throw balls at them. How do you get XP in these games? Who knows? You just do. They're removing one of the core things that makes Pokemon Pokemon, which is how you catch Pokemon and battling wild Pokemon as you travel through this region. And the reasoning for why they're doing it is even more ridiculous, and we're going to go over that a bit later. I'll get to that, trust me. Then there's everyone's favorite word, casualization. The levels and number of Pokemon each trainer's team in the trailer look like they're nerfed to hell and back. Everybody has less Pokemon, everybody's Pokemon are at lower levels. That may be due to the fact that you're not going to be getting XP from battling wild Pokemon, but I'm not really sure about that because, you know, Game Freak. And then activating the multiplayer mode, because you can play on the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, in case you haven't seen anything about it. You can actually take the second Joy-Con off of the Switch, and then have somebody join in as a second trainer, and they battle with half of your party, you battle with half of your party, and stuff. And so, you know what? That seems like a good idea. But they don't scale the battles to it. Everything becomes 2v1. Doesn't become double battles. And then the worst part is the gyms. My god, the gyms. At the press conference in E3, shortly before people stopped playing the demo because they allegedly got bored, by the way, it was shown that in order to enter Brock's gym, you were required to have a Pokemon that was either water or grass type. The game literally railroads you onto easy mode by forcing you to get a Pokemon with a favorable rock type matchup. What if you want to use an Oddish? Well, too bad, you're gonna use it anyway. Now I hear you saying in the distance, Why is this a problem? The game is for kids. Blah, blah, blah. This argument is bullcrap and you know it. You know what else is made for kids? Freaking these. These right here. Banjo-Tooie, Banjo-Kazooie, Luigi's Mansion, Rebel Strike, Wind Waker. This is not the game I grabbed, but whatever, this too. All these games that I own, that I played as kids, are made for kids, and I played them fine. I completed some of those kids. Well, not 100%, but you know what I mean. I was fine with them as a kid. I didn't need everything dumbed down to me. To say that Pokemon of all things needs to be dumbed down to the level that it is, that's been shown to us in the trailer in E3, is an insult to the intelligence of the average child. These games are at a level where they should be for 2-year-olds, not kids in kindergarten up. Like, let me get you a rundown on this. When I was a kid, about like 5 or 6, my first Pokemon game was Pokemon Silver. I got to the Elite Four in that. If I could do it at that age, why is it that the games now need to be made that much easier? I really doubt the kids are that stupid. But you know what? Anyway, E3 came and went, and we were told there'd be another game akin to what we're used to coming in 2019. Like, you know, Pokemon Black, White, XY, Soul, stuff like that. We would see a normal Pokemon game coming in 2019. That's good, right? Well, that was also said along with the fact that if Let's Go did well, then it may influence the direction of games moving forward. You want all your games to be... Do you want all Pokemon games to be $60 versions of Pokemon Go? Congrats! That's what you get if we buy this game and raise the sales numbers enough to like, hey, look, they like this. The conference's trailer showed a lot of what made Pokemon fun for new items being removed. Exploration of type matchups, figuring things out yourself, exploring a new region, not having Charizard and Mewtwo shoved in your face every 5 seconds. There was even an interview later where Masuda told fans of the series to trust them. They know what they're doing is a horrible idea, and the only thing they can say is, please trust us. Do you see the problem with that? And just kept getting worse. There was an interview that even more recent that went through the process of removing wild Pokemon battles, like why that was done. And in it, Masuda said they did it because it was too difficult. Let me repeat that more clearly. They removed wild Pokemon battles because weakening a Pokemon, selecting your best Pokeball, and pressing A was too difficult to understand. What? Masuda even said that it was a controversial change within Game Freak, and that he is the one responsible for this. So, you know, you all know exactly who you want to get fired from Game Freak when this bleeds through into the other games. But, yeah, you know, they also in there, they're making fishing more involved, yet weakening a Pokemon is too complex. But you know what, it's fine, let's add this unnecessary mechanic to fishing, that's what kids want. So, what's the big picture I'm getting here? Why is this all such a big deal? Well, I'm going to take you on a little trip down memory lane and show you how this worrying trend with Pokemon began. Generation 1. I couldn't find the cartridge for Blue, I'm sorry. This is my personal least favorite. Pokemon Yellow, whatever, like, Generation 1's my least favorite. But, you know what? These are fine games. The series is getting started. They had way too many problems, but it was getting started, so some of it is kind of excusable. And you know what? It seems like they at least like put effort into the game. Generation 2. See, right here. Gold, Silver, Crystal. Aside from the level curve in Johto, they were also fine. Massive improvements across the board from Gen 1. These were fine. Generation 3. Ruby, Sapphire, Fire Red, Leaf Green. There goes Emerald. Wait, no, that was Leaf Green. Whatever. But these were also fine. I mean, look at this. They even made Kanto bearable for me in these games. Like, this was actually pretty decent. And you know what? There's also Colosseum in that generation, so that's amazing, because Colosseum was a great game. I am worried what they would do now if, you know, catching a normal Pokemon is too complex, what are they going to do to the Shadow Pokemon mechanics if they are making another one of these games. I honestly don't want them to make another Shadow Pokemon game because of that. And then, where are they? Here they are. Generation 4. Diamond, Platinum, Dark Gold, Soul Silver. You know, good games. Great games, actually. Platinum, I can't figure out where the camera is. Great games in particular, like in particular, Platinum is just amazing. Like one of my favorite, like top 5 Pokemon games. But it was here that we started seeing problems emerge. You see, there was the Azure Flute event for Arceus. It was simple. You get the item from Mystery Gift, you go to Spear Pillar, you use it, Staircase appears, you go and battle Pokegod. And you know what? The event was never released. Now, why is that? Well, because good old Papa Game Freak came in and claimed that the instructions for it were somehow too confusing, and so they just never did it. They had it planned and everything, but using an item at the top of Spear Pillars is too confusing, I guess. And along with this, there are also reports that in Platinum, Japanese kids were getting lost in the game and couldn't figure out how to progress. So this is where the problem began. Generation 5. I couldn't find the case for Black, I'm sorry. Despite problems the game derived themselves in Gen 4, this Generation 5 is my favorite because those problems hadn't taken hold yet. Black and White 2 in particular are actually my favorite games of all time. Well, not of all time, favorite Pokemon games of all time, not of all time. That goes to a different game, and I'm not even sure what it is yet. Now, here's the thing. Generation 5 is where Gen 1ers were born. You all know what a Gen 1er is. Person who was like, Gen 1's the best, Original 151. Silver's okay too, I guess, sometimes. Well, I would know that this is where they were born. I was one of them. Back when I was a young, impressionable teenager in 8th grade, before I realized I was blinded by nostalgia and being stupid. With how Black and White 1 borrowed a lot of design inspiration from Kanto, while excluding all the Pokemon of previous generations in favor of just regional decks, this made a lot of Gen 1ers with hands stuck in the sand mad, and we saw a lot of outcry for the good Pokemon to return, and then things got a little ugly as we move into Generation 6, X and Y, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. This is where we saw the problems emerging in Gen 4 start to rear their head a bit. The games were a lot easier than previous installments, but trainers across Kalos had like laughably low number of Pokemon, and the new version of the experience share made it way too easy to overlevel before you realize you should turn it off. Now, I think X and Y and Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire were good games. I think X and Y were actually pretty good games, but this issue of like how they made it a lot easier just like reared its head. And then there's the Kanto pandering in the games. There's a ton of references to Gen 1 in there just because the Moko minority in Gen 5 spoke up and they listened a little bit too much to that. Game Freak thought that what everybody was wanting was Gen 1 because of how they just kept screaming about it. Sandaloon Forest is a carbon copy of Viridian Forest, having to wake Snorlax with a flute, a largely inflated amount of Mega Evolutions being on the Gen 1 side, and a ton of Kanto Pokemon all over the region just in general. But wait, there's more. Hoenn Confirmed happened with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and again, the games were good, but there was a problem that, while a bit overblown by a lot of fans, showed a glaring hole in Game Freak's design philosophy. The Battle Frontier from Emerald was for some reason not included, and the reasoning that Masuda gave was that kids would just go to their smartphones after beating the game and not bother with the Battle Frontier, so they just copy and pasted the Battle Mice in from X and Y instead. They left out a feature because they thought kids would be too enthralled with their smartphones. Well, the next summer kind of proved that when Pokemon Go was released and just became an instant success. Everybody blew up. Everybody everywhere was playing it. You could barely go walking down the street in downtown without seeing somebody in their nose on the phone trying to catch Ponyta. And this just reinforced the idea over at Papa Game Freak that Pokemon games should be able to just be played and then forgotten about, should be extremely casual, and should primarily cater to Gen 1. So then we move on to Generation 7. Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon were hyped for about a whole month before just evolving into a bit of a train wreck. Information about the games was just trickled out very slowly to us, just like dragging it along as long as they possibly could, letting us know very little at each possible time. And what we saw during the trailers wasn't too promising, and was later in the games was just the. Gyms were gone and replaced with trials, which even in the trailers looked a lot easier, and they were a lot easier than gyms. Aside from like some of the fights with Totem Pokemon, like the Mimikyu fight is actually legitimately pretty difficult. But aside from that, the rest of the games are just blatant easy. Gen 1 pandering was absolutely through the roof with name drops everywhere, Lola forms being only Kantomons, and overall everything just looked like it had been made for little kids with the tone and direction that it was taking. Like, don't even get me started on the Rotom Dex. That thing was unnecessary. Overall, the games were extremely mediocre. You could see that a lot of problems that had begun showing in Gen 4 and 5 had bled into the mainline games, and they're the easiest mainline Pokemon games by far. They dumb down everything to where you can absolutely cannot misunderstand a thing, and they hold your hand the whole way through. And I'm worried Let's Go's gonna make things worse. You can see how we got here. You can see how things progressed. There's no way Let's Go is going to be a one-time deal if it's successful. It will bleed into the main series and run it into the ground. We're going to see a continuation of what began ruining the games here. Do not buy it even just to see how bad it is. Buy it used if you have to see how bad it is, because then no money's going to Game Freak. So do that. But like buying it will just show Game Freak the sales numbers they want, and no matter how bad the game is, they're just going to keep going with it and pumping it out to casuals and ruining the series that we love. We got ourselves into this mess. We have to get ourselves out. Again, do not buy Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee. You will be contributing to the destruction of the Pokemon series if you do that. Also, go support Temtem on Kickstarter. It's a game that looks like it's made in the spirit of Pokemon, and it actually looks really good, unlike what Game Freak is doing these days.